It often happens this way with Prince Harry. His grandest gestures are the ones done in silence, hidden from the cameras, away from the headlines. While others chase the spotlight, Harry slips into moments of humanity, reminding the world why he has always been different from the rest of his family. During his recent visit to the United Kingdom, much was said about his public appearances, his engagements, and the inevitable media scrutiny that followed. But hidden beneath all of that noise was a story that quietly revealed the man Harry truly is. In a gesture that was not meant for the press but for the heart, Harry made a secret visit to Kensington Palace. His destination was not a public stage, not a crowd of photographers, but the private home of the Duke of Kent. There, within the walls of the palace that has seen both triumph and heartbreak, Harry came simply as family. He came to offer his condolences in person, to sit with an elder statesman of the royal household, and to show what love looks like in action. This is the essence of Prince Harry. Not titles, not pomp, but presence. In a monarchy often accused of coldness and detachment, Harry arrived with warmth and compassion. He didn't send a letter through aides or a carefully crafted statement written by palace press officers. He went himself, face to face, heart to heart. That small decision says more about his character than any speech ever could. And perhaps that is why the people of Britain, and millions around the world, still hold him in such high regard. For while the institution of monarchy often feels distant, Harry bridges that gap with simple acts of kindness. He makes royalty feel human again. He brings back something the crown has lost: sincerity. When news quietly emerged that he had spent time with the Duke of Kent, those who admire him were not surprised. This is what Harry does. In moments of grief, he shows up. In moments of division, he reaches out. He has always carried with him the empathy that was once the hallmark of his late mother, Princess Diana. And just as she changed the definition of what it meant to be royal, Harry continues that legacy, not in grand ceremonies, but in quiet, loving actions. It is here that the truth shines through. Harry will always remain the best of them. Not because he holds the highest position, not because he wears the heaviest crown, but because he understands the value of compassion. In a world where monarchy often fails to connect with real people, Harry reminds us that love is stronger than protocol. As he stepped into Kensington Palace, one can imagine the air of simplicity that followed him. No press, no parade, no thunder of trumpets. Just Harry, the man, the nephew, the family member who chose to spend time in remembrance and condolence. That moment was never meant for public consumption, yet it revealed everything the world needed to know. It revealed that Harry has not changed his essence despite the storms he has endured. He is still the boy who walked behind his mother's coffin with tears in his eyes. He is still the soldier who stood shoulder to shoulder with comrades in Afghanistan. He is still the father who prioritizes bedtime stories and beach days with his children over outdated royal traditions. This private visit, as simple as it seems, carries weight. It shows that Harry has not abandoned his roots. He may live in California, he may have forged a new life with Meghan and their children, but his connection to his family remains intact. It is not about duty, it is about love. And love, as Harry proves time and time again, is the only currency that truly matters. The Duke of Sussex did not need to be there. No one would have blamed him if he hadn't made the time, if he had chosen to let a phone call suffice. But Harry is not built that way. He understands the importance of presence. He knows that being physically there, sitting in the same room, holding a hand, listening without distraction, those are the things that carry weight in times of sorrow. And so he came, quietly, respectfully, lovingly. The British press can write what they will about Harry. They can invent narratives of division and disloyalty. They can speculate endlessly about his relationship with other royals. But when the noise fades, what remains is this: a man of heart, a man of empathy, a man who chooses connection over performance. And in the end, that will always matter more. Perhaps this is why Harry continues to inspire a kind of loyalty that others in his family cannot command. People see themselves in him. They see his vulnerability, his willingness to break away from tradition when it conflicts with humanity. They see a man who has endured loss, trauma, and cruelty from the media, yet still finds ways to rise with kindness. He is not flawless, no human being is. But his flaws make him relatable. His heart makes him beloved. When Harry entered Kensington Palace to see the Duke of Kent, it was not the return of a rebel prince or a defector of the crown. It was the return of a son of Britain, a man still tied to his heritage, a soul who understands that grief binds people closer than any throne ever could. That moment mattered not because it was secretive or exclusive, but because it was real. And in that reality lies Harry's true power. He does not need to remind the world of his worth. His actions do it for him. He does not need to cling to a title to define his identity. His character defines it for him. He does not need to stand on the balcony of Buckingham Palace to prove he belongs. He proves it in the quiet rooms where love and remembrance take place. This is why Harry will always remain the best of them. Prince Harry's story has always been one of contrasts. He was born into a family defined by protocol, ceremony, and centuries of tradition. Yet he has never been bound by those invisible chains. Even as a child, he stood apart. There was a warmth in him that often seemed missing from the stiff and formal environment of palace life. While other royals were taught to wave with practiced precision and to maintain a veneer of distance, Harry learned, whether consciously or instinctively, that the truest connections are made through touch, through laughter, through openness. It is this openness that has defined him throughout his life. It was there when he was a boy, greeting people with a mischievous grin that brightened even the darkest days of a monarchy shadowed by scandal. It was there when he walked behind the coffin of his mother, Princess Diana, displaying to the world the raw pain of a child's grief. That moment seared itself into the collective memory of the world, not because Harry was royal, but because he was human, and that humanity has never left him. Diana herself was the master of this gift. She broke barriers by refusing to be a distant symbol. She hugged patients in hospitals, touched those others would not touch, and showed that royalty could be compassionate, could be real. Harry inherited this not just in blood, but in spirit. Every act of kindness, every gesture of empathy, is a continuation of his mother's legacy. And so, when he quietly visited the Duke of Kent, it wasn't just Harry making that decision. It was Diana's heart beating once again through her son. The British press has often tried to twist Harry's story into one of betrayal or rebellion. They portray him as the runaway prince, the man who abandoned crown and country. But that narrative fails to grasp the essence of Harry's journey. He did not leave because he stopped loving his country. He left because he wanted to preserve his family's safety, his wife's dignity, and his children's freedom. Yet despite the oceans that now separate him from Britain, moments like his secret visit prove that the ties of love remain unbroken. He still cares, he still shows up, he still belongs. And it is precisely this balance, his willingness to honour both his new life in California and his old ties to Britain, that makes him such a rare figure. He does not cling desperately to the past, but he also does not sever it entirely. He walks a delicate line that only someone of deep integrity could maintain. The Duke of Kent, a man who has served the crown with dignity for decades, undoubtedly felt the sincerity of Harry's visit. It was not about politics. It was not about publicity. It was about presence, respect, and remembrance. That is how Harry honours his family, not with empty speeches or carefully staged photographs, but with genuine human connection. To understand why this visit matters so much, one must look at Harry's consistent pattern of empathy throughout his life. He has never been a man of half measures when it comes to compassion. When he served in the British Army, he chose to go where others in his position might have avoided. He wanted to be with soldiers on the ground, to understand their struggles, to share in their sacrifices. He did not sit safely behind palace walls. He walked among those who bore the weight of war. That decision was not only an act of bravery, but an act of solidarity. From that experience came the Invictus Games, perhaps the crowning achievement of Harry's life so far. It is a movement rooted in the belief that every life matters, that every wound deserves recognition, and that every person deserves a chance to rise again. Invictus is not about Harry, it is about those he has chosen to uplift. But in creating it, Harry showed the world what true leadership looks like. Not leadership by hierarchy or birthright, but leadership by service. This same spirit carried him to Kensington Palace during his UK visit. For Harry, titles and palaces mean nothing if they are not accompanied by humanity. He does not worship the crown, he cherishes people. That is the crucial difference. When the tabloids accuse him of turning his back on his heritage, they overlook the truth that Harry is more faithful to the spirit of royalty than those who cling to the throne. Because what is royalty if not the duty to serve with love? And who among them embodies that more than Harry? His detractors argue that he has abandoned his family, that he has betrayed tradition, yet his quiet actions, such as visiting the Duke of Kent, prove otherwise. He has not abandoned anyone. He has simply chosen to love them in a way that does not destroy him or his own family. He honours his ties not with words but with presence, and that presence is worth more than 100 hollow speeches. There is a reason why people across the world respond so deeply to Harry. It is because he is real in a way that few royals dare to be. He has been open about his struggles with grief, with mental health, with the suffocating pressures of public life. Instead of hiding behind palace walls, he has spoken about his pain, turning vulnerability into strength. In doing so, he has given millions permission to speak about their own struggles. And that honesty carries into his private life as well. When he shows up for someone, he does it fully. He is not there for photographs or for reputation. He is there because he cares. That is why the secret visit to the Duke of Kent resonates so strongly. It tells us that, despite everything, Harry's heart has not hardened. He has not let betrayal or cruelty change who he is. He remains the boy who learned compassion at his mother's side. He remains the soldier who stood with his brothers in arms. He remains the husband and father who chooses family above all else. This is why Harry will always remain the best of them. In a monarchy too often obsessed with image, Harry chooses substance. In a family that can seem distant, Harry chooses closeness. In a world where power is prized above compassion, Harry chooses love. And that choice again and again defines him, not as a rebel prince, not as a runaway royal, but as the man his mother always hoped he would become. To all my curious Sussex family, thank you all for watching, and do not forget to subscribe, like, and put a comment. Bye-bye. See you then in the comments section.